Okay, well, welcome everybody. It's Monday, July the 17th, 7 p.m. and this is the council meeting for Adelaide Metcalfe Township. So it's now 7 o'clock and we'll call the meeting to order. And before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that last week, so I think he's an important guy, passed away in our community, and it's Raymond Wilson. And the family has deep, deep ties to the community. He was a great guy and he'll be missed by a lot of people. I'm going to read to you what somebody wrote that was on a council many, many years ago. Raymond actually was on council when it was Metcalfe Township. This is long before amalgamation of the two townships. And he was the clerk and treasurer, and he and his wife Dorothy, I don't know if she was a little bit of the treasurer too, and they basically ran the show out of their kitchen table with their 6 kids in that tiny house, and they did a great job with those kids and a very good family. So this is from a counselor back in the day, and their comments were, when I had the privilege of serving on Metcalfe Council in the 1990s, Raymond and Dorothy ran the township office. Our council never hesitated to seek input and guidance from Raymond on many issues, knowing how straightforward and experienced he was. Raymond was full of common sense and had a unique ability to break down what seemed like complicated issues into more simple, bite-sized challenges. Always a gentleman, always a positive comment to put forth, always a quiet leader. Raymond Wilson was one of a kind, and I think he was. So we'll move into our meeting now. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. We have, you've had a chance to review the previous minutes from June the 14th. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, we have a recommendation that the minutes of the Adelaide Metcalfe Council held on June 14th, 2023 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. You've also had a chance to look at the June 19th council minutes, sorry. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, we have a recommendation that the minutes of the Adelaide Metcalfe Council held on June 19th, 2023 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And the last batch of council minutes are from June 23rd. Are there any errors or omissions there? Seeing none, we have a recommendation that the minutes of the Adelaide Metcalfe Council held on June 23rd, 2023 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we have, we're now going to go into our public meeting. We have a recommendation that council convene into public meeting to hear application for zoning bylaw amendment Z05-2023 at, what's the time? 7:04. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. The purpose of the following public meeting is to give council and the general public an opportunity to hear all interested parties with respect to the application being heard this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a person or public body does not speak to the application at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the council decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal or be added as a party to an appeal of the decision to the tribunal. Excuse me. If you wish to be notified of the decision in writing, please submit a written request to the clerk. So this application we have in front of us, it's for Ryan Smith, is a property owner, and his agent Mike Medeiros is here. So before we do anything else, Mike, yeah, just come on up, and there's a microphone there, and I'll turn it over to Aaron at this time, Aaron Besh, our planner.
you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen with everyone here. All right. So the first application before council this evening is for a rezoning. There's sort of two parts to this application. There is a temporary use zoning portion, and then there's also a full rezoning of the property as well. So the first part of this application, the temporary use, will allow the landowner to begin construction on a new home while occupying the original dwelling. This will they will have a period of 2 years to construct the dwelling, and upon the 2 years, the temporary use zoning would expire, or the construction of the second house and completion final occupancy, that would also trigger the temporary use zoning to come off the property. And so as part of that application, of course, we require a signed agreement with the township and a security deposit as well. And the second piece of this application is really related to the fact that the property is, I wouldn't say not appropriately zoned, but for whatever reason, it is zoned general agriculture. So when it was originally severed, it must not have had a rezoning as part of that application, or it was throughout the years, for whatever reason, it's been just left in the general agricultural zone. So in order to construct a second dwelling, the applicants are not actually able to meet the setback requirements of the general agricultural zone. So this is intended for lots 40 hectares or 100 acres in size or larger. It's really not intended for these small rural residential lots. So the applicant this evening is also requesting to permanently rezone the lot to a rural residential zone. We are also requesting it be a site-specific RR-4 zone, and that's in order to recognize that the new dwelling would be slightly deficient in the county road setback requirement. I believe it's 38 meters to the center line of construction for Pike Road, which is a county road, whereas the applicant will be 33 meters. So the application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. We did receive several comments, one from the chief building official. A $10,000 deposit will be required as per our temporary use provisions, and that the existing dwelling will need to be removed 90 days from occupancy of the new dwelling. The county engineer advised of no concerns with the county road setback deficiency. The Adelaide Metcalfe drainage superintendent advised that there does not appear to be a municipal drain that is impacted. So at the time of construction, that will be something that is taken into consideration during the building permit phase. And that would, that's not a municipal drain, that's more ensuring that the lot drainage is appropriate. And finally, the public works manager advised of no concerns. I did not receive any comments or concerns from the public on this application. So my recommendation this evening is approval, as well as all three readings given to both bylaws, as the $10,000 security deposit and temporary use agreement have been signed. I will also mention that there's two zoning bylaws before council this evening. One of them is under section 34, so that's the full rezoning portion. And then the temporary use falls under a different Planning Act section, so that needed to be included as a separate bylaw. So I'm open to any questions if anyone has any. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Are there any questions for Aaron? Mike, as agent for Ryan Smith, is there anything you want to add, or you're good? Or
no, I think she has everything covered there as far as I can see. Yeah, I think we're good.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, then we have a recommendation before us that the application for zoning bylaw amendment Z05-2023 be approved and given three readings, as the applicants have provided the $10,000 security deposit and the temporary use agreement has been completed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Brody, seconded by Counselor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So, yeah, thanks for coming out, Mike. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have a recommendation that council adjourn the public meeting at 7:11 PM and reconvene in the regular session of council. Moved by Counselor McKinnon, seconded by Counselor Kingma. All those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is the correspondence, upcoming conferences, seminars, meetings. The next Adelaide Metcalfe Council meeting is Monday, August the 14th at 7 PM. And the one after that is September the 5th at 7 PM. There were recommended readings, Blue Water Recycling. I don't know, is there anything, Counselor Kingma, you would like to, do anything you think you should highlight?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clark. I would just say that there's a concern about the amount of recycling being picked up at office buildings, arenas and hospitals, and Blue Water is encouraging the province to become less permissive about skipping over some of these institutions and commercial places. So that's the only way we're going to improve our ability to divert from landfills if we increase our standards.
Highlight?
No, I think it's quite explanatory. And everyone had a copy of the report.
Yes.
So
Okay,
unless you
thank
have
you.
questions.
Seeing none, CC number 4, we have a resolution from the Township of Selwyn, and it's regarding STRs, short-term rentals. CC number 5, a resolution for the town of Petrolia for licensed childcare spaces to increase those. Counselor Kingma?
I'd like that to be supported.
Okay.
There's enough demand, so.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconded by Counselor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. CC number 6, a resolution from the town of Essex Code Red and Code Black Emergency Response Infrastructure. CC number 7, a resolution from the municipality of North Perth regarding vacant building official positions. CC number 8, a resolution, the municipality of Chatham-Kent with the MFIPA, time for change. And CC number 9, a resolution, the city of Quinte West, legislative amendments to improve municipal codes of conduct and enforcement. Alrighty, so could I have a motion that, so we've pulled out CC 5 separately. Could I have a motion for CC 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9 to note them received and filed? Moved by Counselor McKinnon, seconded by Counselor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have our staff reports. The first one will be from our CAO, Morgan Calvert, regarding the CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through you to council. So really the purpose of this report is to gain council's support for an application made to the Housing Accelerator Fund. So briefly, during the 2022 federal budget, the federal government announced a $4 billion funding portfolio and called it the Housing Accelerator Fund. It's administered through the CMHC. The grant aims to support making what they call transformational change in terms of construction of housing and infrastructure related to or supporting housing. Eligible uses of the funding are action plans, affordable housing, as previously mentioned, housing related infrastructure, so community infrastructure, wastewater, water, and then other community related infrastructure that supports housing. Adelaide Metcalfe being a municipality of under 10,000 population, we can support an action plan of up to 5 different items. The application encourages more if possible, or if the resources are available at the township to complete more action items. So at the end of the day, really, township staff would like to submit an application under the Housing Accelerator Fund. We know that we aren't participating in large housing projects as we generally protect or prolong the preservation of agriculture here. We are an ag first community, but we do have very targeted areas that could absolutely benefit from this type of grant if awarded. So we'd like to work with Middlesex County. They're being very supportive, of course, in terms of submitting applications through this process. The number of action items and what they can and can't do based on the number of housing starts that they can support results in the amount of money that we could be awarded through the application process. Some of the grant monies could be used for things that we've been talking about quite often over the last 3 years, but generally the urbanization of the commercial corridor, servicing studies, water and sewer infrastructure, implementing new or enhancing existing processes or systems. So we have Cloud Permit that's created an e-permitting process for our building permits. That's a form of enhancing processes through this type of program. Going through the list of action items that Middlesex County brought forward and did a pretty good analysis of, we're really trying to hit the ones that we can optimize the township in the most efficient, effective way while leaving remaining funds through this grant program for tangible assets. Water, sewer infrastructure would be a tangible asset. So at the end of the day, we've highlighted 5 action items in the attachment, but I'd also like to add 2 action items that are a little bit more contextual or specific to Adelaide Metcalfe. One is a master servicing study nuanced with a feasibility component. So what are our options to bring water potentially to the village of Adelaide or the village of Kerwood, for example? And are they actually feasible? What kind of monies would we require to do those things and really design a plan? So maybe we can advocate for additional monies or otherwise. The other thing that we could use this money for is, since we're going through our official plan process, we're going to have to update our comprehensive zoning bylaw. So these monies could be used to do a really thorough look at our zoning bylaw and update it in a way that supports, smaller lot sizes, for example, or implements the ARUs. That would be another example of that. Next steps. So if council wishes to proceed with an application to this funding opportunity, we'll work with Middlesex County to submit an application to the Housing Accelerator Fund. If we're successful, of course, it'll be a positive on our budget and any capital programs that we move forward on. These are 100% dollars. They require no monetary commitment from the township. If council is happy, then I'd kindly ask that council approve the action plan items listed and to direct staff to submit an application to the Housing Accelerator Fund on behalf of the township. Any questions? I'm happy to answer if I can.
Any questions for Morgan? Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly endorse the recommendation by staff. Just a quick question or two. When does the window close for applications?
So the application window is open today. To be honest, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. Did you catch that?
It was further out than I thought. I think it's September.
I thought it was September too,
Okay,
but
I'm
I
not
could be
sure.
mistaken.
We're going to be submitting it by the end of the month, though.
Yeah, no, we want it off the table and in there for sure. Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
And if I may, when will we know when our application has passed the first round of reviews?
Yeah, so another good question. I understand that they'll be looking at them later in the fall with a response probably in the spring. They did have an outline of timing in their application guide. I can provide you more specifics once I take a look at that guide, but sometime in the fall and spring is what I recall.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Garrett.
And finally, just wondering, the county is helping us prepare this application. Are they also going to assist us in reporting functions to keep going?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me get back to you on that one. That's a good question.
Thanks, Counselor Kingma. Any other questions for Morgan? Seeing none, you have that recommendation before you that council approve the action plan items listed and to direct staff to submit an application to the Housing Accelerator Fund on behalf of the township. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Brody, seconded by Counselor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, 7B is the animal control bylaw, and I'll turn that over to our legislative boss here, Mike Barnier, the legal guy. Okay.
Thanks, Mayor Clark. To members of council, in an effort to start reviewing our bylaws and updating them, the animal control bylaw, it did consist of a couple bylaws listed in the report. One related or just dealt with exotic animals, and the other one was dogs running at large and some fees surrounding that. So working with the county legal, we've taken a look at updating this. So new legislative authority. We have used quite a few different municipalities and seeing the practices coming. So it is consistent with bylaws throughout the province. The main things we were trying to address with this bylaw were limiting the number of animals. We have had an issue in that regard, but just to note, the limit of animals is in our residential areas and not pertaining to agriculture. So it does limit it to 3 dogs and no more than 4 cats. People will be grandfathered in. It's a little tougher to keep track of in the case of cats because we don't license cats at this moment in time. But that did become a discussion during this process, and just not the capacity at this moment, but Johnny and I will be talking about licensing cats in the future. It would be a revenue source, but I'm sure it would be difficult to start getting that base of it, but yeah, to start somewhere with like dogs. So just for reference, when we're talking about limiting dogs, the 3, I had staff look up how many we were dealing with that actually licensed their dog, and there were only 2 households at this time. Cats is a bit of an unknown. We know one that's got many more than permitted. So we'll work back from that with that property. As suggested at a previous council meeting, I think Councillor McKinnon was suggested when we looked at it, we look at guardian dogs as one of those resolutions. So we did add in those provisions. So guardian dogs you can have up to 6, and it's a little more lenient on excessive barking, those things while they're on active duty. And probably the biggest one out of this is just, again, the township keep moving towards recovery of costs in our process. So this would allow us to recover costs in any type of capture, impound, and care of the animal, whether the animal is returned or it stays at the pound facility. You will notice, and the question did come from Councillor McKinnon today, that there is no set fine schedule. So this seems to be a little bit of practice that's going on now, and it was at the recommendation of the county legal that they opting for summons to court for anyone charged with a violation. This approach allows for discretionary fines ranging from $0 to $5,000 as quantifying fines in advance for breaches such as exceeding animal limits or housing exotic animals can be challenging. This way we can exert discretion when assessing fines during court proceedings, but our bylaw officers still have the ability to issue warnings. We'll track warnings. If it becomes an issue, that's when we start to evaluate with the county if we proceed under a court summons. So if there's any questions in this regard, the one thing I did forget. So we were trying to put it all in one animal control bylaw. But it became apparent that probably the best practice is to take the kennel out of it. So there will be a subsequent meeting, most likely next meeting, just so there's not that big gap of not licensing kennels, because we will be repealing the previous bylaw that we'll take a look at kennels as well and bring that forward. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Any questions for? Go ahead, Councillor McKinnon.
Just for clarification through you, Mayor Clark, to the clerk. If we take someone to court, do we submit the bylaw to the court so they know that there's no set fine now? That it could be anywhere from 0 to 5,000? Or do you just go to court and decide on then?
Through the mayor to Councilor McKinnon. Good question, but it would be on that basis. They wouldn't have it on file like a set fine schedule, but it would clearly be when we submit the court summons, that's a piece of the material, right? So that's what was indicated, up to $5,000 in that case, so.
Because your ask would probably be like for cost recovery for everything involved with processing that file. Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Kingma?
Thank you through the mayor. Just thanks to Councillor McKinnon too for putting livestock guardian dogs on the radar. I think that's very important. I'm going to recommend that we not charge owners of those dogs license fees. They're working animals, not companions.
If that's if you want to make that motion with the beginning to make that minor amendment, and we'll get that changed.
I'd like to hear feedback on that first.
Through the mayor to the, I don't know, how do you charge one dog and not another? I mean, I don't know. You're not talking very much money anyways, so.
And through the mayor to both Councillor Brody and Councillor Kingma, it does give us the ability to track those animals. I guess we don't need the full registration for them to bring it in that it is. And I'm easy either way, but it does give us ability to track.
Can you remind everyone what the fee is? Maybe that's a Johnny question. $35 or the more dogs you have, the less it is, right? Like the next one and the next one. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I mean, none of us have this committed to memory, so I hope you can
No,
look
no,
it
I
up.
just pulled it up. So the first
Yeah.
dog is 25, second
Okay.
dog 35, every other dog is 45.
Oh, so it does go up for each dog. Okay. Councillor Kingma?
I'm just going to reiterate that I think livestock guardian dogs, it's not unreasonable to view them as something like akin to a service animal or a police dog. So I'm not going to advocate for charging people a license fee. I recommend that they tell the township they have the dogs, but no payment.
So if I read between the lines here, so they register the dog, but if it's registered and noted that it's a working dog, then you're proposing no fee for that, but we still want them registered, so we have them documented. Okay, so that would be.
Just a question.
Go ahead, sorry.
So what's gonna stop every farmer from saying that it's a working
Working
dog?
dog.
That was
Councillor
my
McKinnon?
question as well, because the sheep farmers have border collies as well, which are working dogs as well. They're not a guard dog, but they are a working dog. So
Well, and the coyotes are out, so is every dog barking to let you know the coyotes are out? I don't know, right? So, yeah, Councillor Kingman, go ahead.
That was a good question from the counselor. I think we should probably assume that there's breed specific dogs that are suited to
Like a
protection,
healer or something, or
protection and herding. So it's not like your wiener dog is going to be a protector. So
your French poodle, your French poodle.
yeah, so I don't think too many
Thank you.
farmers can pull a fast one on us about that. They tend to be breed specific. So if we have to name breeds in the bylaw, that might not be too unreasonable.
Okay, so we have, sorry, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I'll just say in the bylaw, what it does say is a municipality may exercise discretion in accepting this information or requiring further details from the owner. But yeah, I don't know how much discretion you want to give me in that case, right? We should probably be clear. I don't-
Well, you should have a policy because it's not fair to set the staff up and have them deal with the public and not know what the actual policy is, so. So why don't, I was just gonna suggest that is that we'll park that, like, can we not approve this and that's in front of us right now? And then bring back an amendment to like, or an additional, or it won't work.
Yeah, we just refer in that case
Okay.
and we can bring it back. I can bring it back to next council, just get some more clear definitions around what breeds they may consist of and just do a little more research. See how we can distinguish
Just
that.
a question.
Is there an
Is there-
appetite for this?
Is there even any working dogs in the town? Like, I don't even know of any, so I don't know. I think we're making this a little too confusing.
Mhm. I don't know. Do you have working dogs for your sheep?
I have no vested interest in the outcome of this discussion. I want to make that very clear.
Good.
But we're preparing for the future. We don't know what the cattle and sheep business is going to do. Maybe it'll expand beyond our wildest dreams. And we'll want working dogs to accompany us.
Okay, by a show of hands, would you want to just stand with the recommendation that we have in front of us, or do you want the clerk to take this back and rework it? Stay?
Let it stand.
Okay, so that's, and I'll say let it stand. So therefore, we have a recommendation that bylaw 44 of 2023 being a bylaw to regulate and govern animals, including exotic animals within the township of Adelaide Metcalfe, be presented and considered. A mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Sure, go ahead, Martin.
So just picking up on the conversation, we'll just make sure to monitor the program closely and report back to council. So if we're starting to deal with some of these issues, we're always willing to review and change. So appreciate council accepting the recommendation today, and we'll bring back any issues that may come.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion to monitor it and see if there is, I think that's a good suggestion. Okay, next up is 7C, the 2024 Budget Working Group. So I'll turn this over to our treasurer, Johnny Pereira.
Thank you, Mayor Clerk, through the council. So over the last few years, the township has made a number of improvements to our budget process. We have streamlined many processes to add efficiencies into the overall budget creation, which has resulted in a much earlier budget passing. For the 2024 budget, building off the last few years of improvements, we are recommending that we establish a budget working group. This group would consist of 2 counselors and senior township managers, with a couple of meetings scheduled in 2024 through the budget process timeline, which is coming up in my next report. This will provide council valuable insight into the budget creation process, engage in line-by-line discussions with staff, and an opportunity to provide valuable feedback on behalf of council as a whole. This budget working group will serve as an additional tool to enhance education and transparency within the budget process. In future years, council may appoint 2 new members to the working group to ensure all councillors have an opportunity to be a part of this initiative while continuing to provide an efficient budget process. There will be no change to the current process, where councillors will still be encouraged to schedule one-on-one meetings with myself to review the budget in detail when the budget packages become available later this year. I'll leave the recommendation to the mayor to seek those councillors who are interested in joining the working group, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Johnny. And just to reinforce one thing that Johnny said was this does not replace everyone not having input. So I know last year, everybody had questions. Some of us sat down with Johnny, went line by line. Other people had specific questions. So that's still, if you're not on this working group, that you still have an opportunity to do that. So any questions for Johnny? Okay, and then like Johnny said, I think it's good to have it rotating every year so that everybody is part of that process. So do we have any volunteers for 2024? Or would you like the mayor to appoint?
I don't know.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so for this coming year, like the process for this October, November, it will be Councillor McKinnon and myself. Okay. So we have a recommendation that Councillor McKinnon and Mayor Clark be appointed to the budget working group for the 2024 budget and join municipal staff during budget discussions during October and November of 2023. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. That wasn't too painful. Okay, Johnny, 7D is also you, 2024 budget process, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. So just kind of building off the last report there. So this is just outlining the 2024 budget creation process. As the budget serves as an outline to how monies that come into the township should be spent to maintain and improve the township overall. So by starting this process early with hopes to pass the budget in December, could position the township to realize significant savings as we could be able to tender out projects before many other municipalities. This results in a direct cost savings to the tax base, as we have already started to see. In addition, it does provide administrative efficiencies due to the seasonality of municipal operations. So to kick off the 2024 budget process, we'll be rolling out an online budget survey to engage our residents in this year's budget process. This will be coming out in August, so stay tuned to our socials, the township website, and the final tax bill newsletter for more information. In addition, staff has drafted a budget roadmap to highlight the overall process to develop the 2024 budget. And you can find that in the attachment in the report. The recommendation is that the 2024 budget process be received for information. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Johnny? One of the things, and we saw it last year with the getting out the gate early, is Coulter was able to save money on those tenders, and he was he was at the front of the line, and it saved significantly. So I think it's very important to have this structure and keep moving in that direction to have it approved as early as we can. So yeah, seeing no questions, we have a recommendation that the 2024 budget process report be received for information. Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. 7E, capital budget to actual, the Q2 for 2023. I'll turn that over to Johnny again.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, through the council. We have the Q2 report, capital report that outlines the township's capital projects for the year with spending to June 30th. The report outlines the status of capital projects and any other relevant comments. Staff reviews their capital spending on a monthly basis, and the report is brought to council to outline any significant overages and a financial strategy to address it. Through the end of June, we have completed 6 of our 14 capital projects. A number of projects are active with details about their progress noted in the report. The recommendation is to receive the report as presented, but again, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Johnny. Any questions for our treasurer? Seeing none, we have a recommendation that the capital budget to actual report for Q2 2023 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And then your current operating budget to actual, not the capital, but the operating one for June 2023. I'll turn that over to Johnny again.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, through the council. So pretty routine report, the 2023 operating budget actual for June. Overall, same as prior month, spending and revenue collection to date looks to be on pace with the budget. So no concerns there. And the recommendation is just to receive the report as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Kingma.
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor to Johnny, do we get timely compensation after a motor vehicle collision?
through Mayor Clark to Councillor Kingma. It goes through a quite a long process through the MTO if it happens on the 402 or the highway. So that does take some time. If it goes through private insurance, it can drag on as well. It's not uncommon for those to drag on for quite a few months. But yeah, it's definitely not a quick process.
And you keep a running like inventory and monitor that and.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we do invoice all that out. So that is tracked and reviewed on a monthly basis to understand our collections. We do follow up with insurance companies if they're lagging to ensure we do see payment.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, we have a recommendation that the operating budget to actual report for June 2023 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, 7G is Johnny again, and it's the tile loan borrowing. There was a good report for that. I hope everybody had a chance to read it, but in the meantime, I'll turn that over to Johnny.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the council. So the tile loan program is authorized by the Tile Drainage Act, which provides loans to agricultural property owners to help them finance their tile drainage projects. All loans are 10-year terms, and all applications that come forward will be brought to council for approval. In order for the township to participate in this program, we are required to have a borrowing bylaw in place. The last bylaw came forward pre-amalgamation. So borrowing from an OMAFR follows a declining balance model, meaning as the tile loans are approved, they reduce the amount available that is outlined in the bylaw. So with the current interest rates right now, we are anticipating increased interest in the program. So being proactive, staff is recommending we bring forward a bylaw requesting $300,000 of available funds. It is important to note that the township is not borrowing this money. It's just earmarked. So when tile loans come forward to council, we do have the capacity to utilize those funds. From a financial perspective, there is minimal impact to the township as a property owner is responsible for repaying all principal and interest. Township does pay the province, but it's just township's acting as the middle person in the transaction. All tile loans are also subject to a debenture fee outlined in our fee bylaw to help with cost recovery and its administration. The recommendation is to consider the bylaw to raise money to aid in the construction of drainage works under the Tile Drainage Act. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Johnny? Councillor Brody?
Through you, Sue, to Johnny. So I guess tile loans were more popular years ago. So when you apply for a tile loan with the township, is there a better interest rate? Like what is the better for ratepayers?
Yeah. So the current interest rate is 6%. So it wasn't popular for quite some time, just with the low interest rates.
Yeah.
So with the interest rates climbing, it's something that we're anticipating that could be of interest to residents.
So just one more question. So this is borrowing a bylaw an amount of 300,000. So does the max that it's available?
No, so that's kind of a figure based on like historical borrowing. We can always bring another bylaw forward. That's just a specific amount. We can, if that's exhausted, say in a year, for example, we can just bring another bylaw forward. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say
yeah.
300,000. That's only gonna do. I don't even know if that'll do 200 acres anymore. So it wouldn't, right? So that's a pretty small amount.
So there is a maximum. That's $50,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can, okay, so the
Yeah,
maximum
no,
one person
not
can
one
borrow
per-
is.
No.
Okay.
Max is 50,000.
All right, okay. Yeah.
But I mean, it helps somebody out, right? And if it's a little bit less, a couple of points in interest, it's
Yeah.
something.
Okay, no, that makes it a little clearer. Thank you.
And a 10-year term too, which is
Yeah.
good, so. Okay, any other questions for Johnny? Seeing none, we have a recommendation that bylaw 43 of 2023 being a bylaw to raise money to aid in the construction of drainage works under the Tile Drainage Act be presented and considered. Moved by Counselor Brody, seconded by Counselor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, before we go into closed session, I'm just going to turn it over to Morgan for 2 seconds to clarify a few things.
Yeah, I just wanted to loop back to your questions because the power of the internet is a wonderful thing. So yes, when the submission deadline is, it's August 18th of this year, with Paul Shipway and I submitting an application, or at least getting it to the red zone on July 25th, which gives us lots of opportunity to complete any gaps that might be realized at that time. When will we hear back? Late summer or the fall, in terms of whether or not we're successful with they're saying the first advance, so the first payment would be sometime in the fall as well, once you being council agree to a contribution agreement, a funding agreement. In terms of the reporting on the HAF program, so I'll follow up with the county on this, but I don't expect it to be very exhaustive. Even in the modernization program through the province, required reporting just generally on general status. So hopefully it aligns, but I'll see what I can find on in terms of the reporting burden.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too onerous. Okay, and that's it then for that. All right, we're going to be going into closed session here next. So we have a recommendation that council adjourn to a closed session at 7:47 PM pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, an HR matter, and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, specifically the servicing agreement between Adelaide Metcalfe and Strathroy Caradoc. So can we have a mover for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma.